Hello student, myself is Dr. S.V.K. Khairnar, Associate Professor and Head of the Department of Botany from Maratha Vidya Prasarak Samaj, S.V.K.T, Art Science and Commerce College, Deolali Camp. Students, in the series of video, we learn the different topics of botany from different papers and for the different classes. Today we are going to studying a next video. This video is for FIBSc students. This video is for a FIBSc botany paper first, that is morphology and anatomy for semester first. In this video we will going to see or we will going to learn the study of flowers. Before this video, in the class, we were studied the inflorescence, what is meant by inflorescence, what are the different types of inflorescence. In the types of inflorescence, there are two main types, racemose inflorescence and cymose inflorescence. And some of the inflorescence that are not recognized, either racemose or cymose, and they are treated as a special type of inflorescence. So this topic on the inflorescence we were studied in the classroom, and now in the form of video we will going to learn a flower, that is study of flower. So our today's session agenda is, under the study of flower, we will going to see the introduction. Under introduction, what is meant by flower or when it is developed. Then we will see the definition of flower, scientific definition of flower, how flowers is defined variously. Then we will also see what are the typical parts of a flower. Then lastly, we will also see the types of flower and symmetry of flower. What are the learning objectives of our today's video? So, learning objectives of our today's video are to know or to get understand what is meant by flower, how we can define the flower, and what are the uses of flower for the plant. Then the another objective is to study the features of flower, means the different kinds of flowers we see in the nature, they are of different size, different shape, different color. These are the features of flower. So what are the different kinds and flowers with different features are available, that we will going to know as a objective of today's study. The another objective is to study the typical floral parts, means what are the typical floral parts are present in a flower basically or generally. And the last objectives of our today's study is to study the types and symmetry of a flower. What are the different types of flowers scientifically we can make, and what way the flower symmetry we can classify or we can study. So along with these learning objectives, we will going to learn a study of flower in this video. You know student, flower when plant achieve a growth and reach at maturity, so that time the vegetative birds are get converted into the reproductive birds, because plant want to reproduce, and because of that the reproductive structures are developed in all kinds of plants by different ways. In the flowering plants, the reproductive structure is developed by means of a development of flower, and the flowers are arise or flowers are start coming at the time of end of reproduction, at the time of maturity or in the reproduction season. So flower is nothing but a reproductive structures developed in flowering plant. When flowering plant want to reproduce, so that time the different different vegetative buds are get converted into the reproductive buds, and numbers of flowers are developed on the different branches of the that particular plant. Scientifically, we can define a flower as flower is defined as highly condensed and modified reproductive shoot. It means that flower is nothing but a modification of shoot. Shoot means what? That is a vegetative portion that contains branches, stem part, leaves, etc. But at the time of reproduction, this shoot get modified as a reproductive shoot. It becomes a reproductive shoot, and that's why the flower is defined as a highly condensed and modified reproductive shoot. And this modification is occurs because flower is modified shoot where in the shoot apical meristem changes to floral meristem, and this kind of modifications are take place for the purpose of reproduction. You can see this diagram, you can observe this image, and this image showing the dissected flower with a typical floral parts. So you can see at the base there is a stalk of flower that is called as a pedicel, and the swollen end of this pedicel may called as a thalamus, or it may called as a receptacle. And on the surface of receptacle, the different floral parts are rested and they are arranged typically, and these floral parts from outside to inside are like a calyx, corolla, androsium and gynosium. So this diagram is showing the typical parts occurs in general in a flowers. So now we will going to elaborate or see the typical parts. If you will see from in the figure from outside there is a calyx. So calyx are nothing but a leaf-like appendages, and these leaf-like appendages are somewhat smaller, but they are always or mostly green in color. And this is a outermost whorl of a flower or first whorl of a flower. Inside that there are color portion, that color portion is called as a corolla, and this corolla is made by the union of a petals, and these petals are generally of bright and different color that is vary from plant to plant and species to species. Next to petals there are androsium. Androsium are nothing but a male reproductive structure. This is a essential whorl, whereas the calyx and corolla are not a essential whorl, but they are the accessory whorl. It means that if they are present or not present in a flower, then also the flower can reproduce, because that they are not a essential whorl. The essential whorl are only the androsium and gynosium, and respectively they are treated as a male and female reproductive structure. So you can see all these parts, floral parts in this particular figure. Now we will going to see or learn each part of a flower. The typical flower has a 4 parts. What are that 4 parts? Typical flower has a first 3 parts, and that first 3 parts are called as a first is called as a bract, another one is called as a pedicel, and third one is called as a thalamus. Bract is what? What is bract? Bract is also nothing but a leaf or leaf-like appendages. Scientifically, the bract is a part where flower is arise. Means inside the bract or from the inner side of bract, the flower is born or emerge, and that's why the part where flower is arise, that is called as a bract. At the axis, internal axis of bract, the flower is present, and when bract is present in the flower, such flower is called as a bracteate flower. The bract may be a leaf or leaf-like appendages. Sometimes the flower may emerge or arise from the axis of leaf, and that time such leaf can also be treated as a bract. So when bract is present, so such flower can be called as a bracteate flower, and if bract is absent and such flower is called as a ebracteate flower. So this is what a first part of a flower. Then second part of a flower, that is what a stalk on which the flower is rested. That stalk like structure is structure of a flower is called as a pedicel. Flower has long or short stalk which is called as a pedicel. When flower with stalk, such flower is called as a pedicellate flower, and when flower is without stalk, the flower is directly rested at the axis of bract or on the stem from where it is going to be arised or born. So that time without stalk flower is treated as a sessile flower. The flower with stalk is called as a pedicellate flower, and the flower without stalk is called as a sessile flower. Then the third part, that is a thalamus. The thalamus is nothing but the upper tip or upper part of a pedicel that is somewhat swollen or flat. Sometimes that may be a cup shape, that may be a spherical or conical, and this apical portion of a pedicel is called as a thalamus. So this thalamus is nothing but a surface for resting the other floral parts or different parts of a flower. The different parts of a flower are get rested on the thalamus, or they emerge from the surface of the thalamus. So these are the three typical parts of a flower. Then when flower is developed, that flower has a different floral walls. Apart from these three typical floral parts or flower parts, each flower has a different floral wall. So that each floral wall, each normal flower or in general each flower has a 4 floral whorls, and they are what from outside to inside. They are calyx, corolla, androsium and gynosium. So now we will going to see the each floral whorl in detail from outside to inside. So first we will see what is calyx. The calyx is a outermost whorl. This is a accessory whorl because it do not take part in reproduction, and that's why it is called as a accessory whorl. It is outermost. The members of calyx individually called as a sepal, and collectively by including all sepal we call collectively as a calyx. Generally these calyx are green, very rarely they may be colored. They are leaf-like but small in size, and they protect the flower in bud stage. When flower is in bud stage, so they engulf over the inner floral parts and they gives protection to the inner floral parts. When sepals are free in a calyx, so such flower is called or termed as a polysepalous flower, means flower with a free sepals. But when sepals are united, then such flower may be called as a gamosepalous flower. The next floral whorl inside to calyx, that is called as a corolla. This corolla is also a accessory whorl. It is bright colored. It is also composed of a petal. Collectively it is called as a corolla, but individually the individual structure or individual appendage of corolla is called as a petal. They are usually bright color. They may be red color, yellow color, pink color, blue color, or also sometimes they may be white color. There are lot of colors of flowers we can see in the nature. That coloring part of a flower is nothing but a corolla, and that corolla contains a colored petal. Because of their attractive color, their function is nothing but a attraction of insect for the purpose of pollination. Like a calyx, like a sepals, if petals are free in a flower, so such flower can be treated or called as a polypetalous or such corolla can be called as a polypetalous corolla. And if petals are united, then such corolla is called as a gamopetalous corolla. There are great shapes and size and colors of corolla are available. There is a great variation from species to species. We can see the different size, shapes and structure of corolla. It may be red, yellow, blue, pink, white, etc. Its shape may be also varies from species to species. Some of the flowers having a tubular corolla, that may be like a tube, for example the disc floret of sunflower. Some of the corolla are like a bell shape, for example the flower of Alamanda climber. Some of the corolla are funnel shape like a flower of Dhotra. These are what the different shapes of corolla. So corolla is a second accessory whorl of a flower. Now we will going to see a next whorl of a flower. The next whorl of a flower, that is a third number whorl from outside. After calyx and corolla, this whorl is present, and this whorl is called as a Androsium. This is a essential whorl and made by one or many stamen. Why it is essential? Because this whorl take part in the reproduction. So the Androsium is nothing but a male reproductive structure, and this Androsium is made by the stamens. There may be single stamen is present in the Androsium, or there may be number of stamens. Again, the number of stamens is varies from species to species. A stamens has a filament or stalk like elongated structure, anther lobes at the tip of filament, and connective. This connective is nothing but a mass of tissue that adhere or hold the two anther lobe gatherly at the tip of filament. Then each anther lobe is bilobed. So that's why when we take a transverse section of anther lobes, then we can see the four chambered structure, and that is what a tetrasporangiate nature of anther. That is because each anther lobe having a two chambers or bilobed in nature, and that's why we see the four chambers after taking the transverse section of a stamen. In some flower, some stamen may not grow fully, they may be reduced, and such reduced underdeveloped stamens can be treated as a staminode, or they may also called as a sterile stamens, because they do not capable of producing the male gamete, and that's why they are treated as a sterile stamen. When stamens are remain attached to the petals, they are called as a epipetalous stamen, because stamens at the base with the help of filament, in some cases they may remain attached, and such cases such stamens can be called as a epipetalous stamens. And if they are not attached, then they are free, and such stamens, if in some cases in the flowers in place of corolla the perianth is present, and when the stamens are remain attached to the perianth lobes or tepals, such stamens called as epiphylous stamens, when stamens are attached to the perianth lobe. If stamens are free, they are called as a polyandrous, and if stamens may united, they may be in a one bundle, they may be in a two bundle, or they may be in a many bundle, and respectively they may called as a monoadelphous, diadelphous or polyadelphous stamens, because there you will see the different bundles of a stamens. So that is a union of stamen in the form of bundles. So this stamen or Androsium is a essential third whorl of a flower. It takes parts in the reproduction. Now we will going to see the last and innermost whorl of a flower, that is called as a gynosium. Like a stamen, this gynosium is also a essential whorl. It is made by one or many carpels. Gynosium are the female reproductive organ of a flower. Like a stamen, a carpel has a three parts like stigma, style and ovary. The stigma is nothing but a receptive center for the pollen grains that is present at the tip of style. Style is a elongated stalk-like structure that is a connection between the stigma and solan basal ori. The stigma is at the tip of style that is a receptive surface of pollen grain. When carpel in the flower are free, called as a apocarpus carpels, and when they are united, called as a syncarpus carpel. The style connect the stigma and ori. When pollen grains are dusted on the surface of stigma, the pollen grains germinate there. The germ or pollen tube is developed, and that pollen tube fires through the style and reaches to the ori. So, the stigma is a receptive center for the pollen grains. Inside the ori, the ovules are remain attached to the placenta. In this way, the typical flower has a 4 floral parts: calyx, corolla, androsium and gynosium. Now we will going to learn or see a types of flowers. There are two main types of flower: complete flower and incomplete flower. These types are made on the basis of different floral words, or all floral words are present or not. So complete flower is a flower has a sepal, petals, stamens and carpels. Then it is called as a complete flower. Whereas the incomplete flower, if in the flower any one of the above is missing from these four floral whorls, then it is called as an incomplete flower. In this way, complete flower and incomplete flowers are considered. Now we will going to see the symmetry of a flower. There are three kinds of symmetry, or symmetrically there are three types of flowers: actinomorphic flower, or radial flower, or regular flower. The actinomorphic flower means when flower is divided by any vertical plane into a two equal halves, then it is called as a actinomorphic flower. You can see a first image. So all the floral parts of a flower are of same dimension, and that's why you can cut from any side, then also you will get a two equal halves. So this flower is called as a radially symmetrical or actinomorphic or regular flower. Second type of symmetry observed in the flower, that is a zygomorphic or bilateral symmetrical flower. When flower is divided into the two equal halves only through one vertical plane, then it is called as a zygomorphic or bilateral symmetrical flower. You can see a second image of orange color. So there is only such plane is there. If you will cut the flower, then you will get a two equal halves, and such flower is called as a bilaterally symmetrical flower. The third kind of symmetry observed in the flower, that is a asymmetrical or irregular flower. You can see the third image. In the third image there is you can see no one floral part is of same size. All the floral parts are of different size, and that's why such flower cannot be divided into the two equal halves, and such flower is called as a asymmetrical or irregular flower. Now we will just summarize our today's part or today's study, that is a study of flower. Flower is a reproductive structure developed in flowering plants. Can be defined as a highly condensed and modified reproductive shoot for the purpose of reproduction. You can see once again there are the figure showing you the typical parts of the flower or whorls of a flower. What will be the assignment on this topic, study of flower? In the assignment you may ask the question like define a flower, define complete and incomplete flower, explain the parts of typical flower, explain symmetry of flower, So these are the probable assignment may ask on this particular topic. In the precap, during coming next video, we will going to see the next topic related to this morphology and anatomical paper, that is study of different floral whorls. In the coming video, we will going to study the different floral whorls of a flower. Thank you.